The Douglas Report, which is a health report, says that aspartame is one of the most dangerous substances ever added to food. In a moment, another guest, Stephen Fox, joins us, along with Dr. Betty Martini on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. Stephen Fox is very active in New Mexico legislative and consumer protection politics, trying to get the FDA to rescind its approval for the sweetener aspartame. He's with us along with Betty Martini. Hey, Stephen, how are you, sir?
Oh, splendid. Thank you for having me as a guest. I think with programs like yours, we could actually, put the opposite of dumbing down educate the American public into some, really strong consumer protection action like getting aspartame off the market. And so I appreciate very much being here.
Stephen, is that doable, do you think, getting it off the market?
Well, to be honest with you, James Turner could explain, has explained, I think, already on your program, how he basically forced Nixon to give a presidential order to take it off, to take cyclamates off the market. So, yes, I think it's possible. And, on a state-by-state level, it may be impossible with the kind of corporate logic that rules through lobbyists, and that they're really an infernal bunch, like they're like whores, And so last year I gave up on New Mexico. I ran into the same people, and they kept turning on the steam and saying that it was all internet junk science and so on and so on. And I just concentrated on Hawaii and made, I think, tremendous inroads over there with the ban bill, the bill to ban aspartame, and then when that became impossible due to the same lobbyists, we got a resolution, but it, a powerful resolution. Betty and I wrote it, which basically it's a very genteel, a very different approach rather than saying we have to ban it. It's to say, the state of Hawaii is asking the FDA to voluntarily rescind it, and here are the 40 years of reasons why. And I think we're going to do that same resolution in New Mexico and Hawaii this year, and I hope some more states. It's a different approach, but it's ultimately, I think, perhaps more convincing.
I am so convinced, Stephen, and you, Betty, I want to address this to you, that people are becoming sick, getting diabetes, type 2, from so many things that have been put in their food. And, whether this substance or not contributes to it, and you have research that shows that it does, that it's harmful, there's no question that what we're putting in food and drink, we're killing people, we're hurting people.
Well, as far as diabetes is concerned, now Dr. H.J. Roberts, who wrote the medical text, is a diabetic specialist, and he says it not only precipitates diabetes, but it simulates and aggravates diabetic retinopathy and neuropathy. It destroys the optic nerve. It causes diabetics to go into convulsions. It interacts with insulin. And the free methyl alcohol is causing the diabetics to lose limbs. So if you want to kill a diabetic, aspartame will do it, and it's pushed on them. And in 2004, the American Diabetes Association had a suit filed against them for racketeering because of it. And even though they got out of it, the point is that the professional organizations are funded, by industry to defend and to push these products. And this is why it makes it so difficult for us.
Stephen, what about the FDA? They're supposed to protect us. They're supposed to watch. It seems like they do a good job when they run around trying to find the source of a salmonella outbreak that they find in Mexico, and they blame jalapeno peppers, though they haven't ruled out tomatoes. So there seem to be some hard people working, good workers within the FDA. But politically, isn't that a different story?
They are very good people at the lower levels. Many of the people that fought aspartame being approved from 1966 to 1981, those were very good people. But it slipped into a whole new realm of political whoredom with Donald Rumsfeld. And, when he forced the approval of this, he really has killed a lot more people than those, Serbian guy or Croatian guys being tried for genocide in Serbia.
Yeah.
When you add it up, I mean, maiming people and so on and so on. My only hope and prayer, and what I work for diligently every day is a new FDA commissioner, not this corporate slug we have now, Dr. von Eschenbach, because he's wallowing in corporate pleasantries and I had 21 members of the New Mexico legislature. That's almost a fifth of the whole legislature. Sign a letter to him and to President Bush and to the Secretary of Health Leavitt, asking them to take aspartame off the market. And he did answer. Bush never answered, but von Eschenbach, it's just corporate pleasantries. It's like the sweet, charming letter that you want to get back from someone committing genocide.
But
and
he
they
lied
make no
to
bones
the Senate
about it.
too.
Can anybody try to get, as they did in the tobacco suits, documents, and in some cases documents that we get from like Vioxx and things like that?
Absolutely. If one attorney general spearheaded such a thing, and it would really take shape very quickly.
There could be some criminal charges here, Stephen.
Yes, and until there should be criminal charges, and there absolutely should be. And Arthur Hull Hayes and Rumsfeld and Samuel Skinner, they should all be. They're all very old men now, but that's okay. And I want to see a new FDA commissioner entirely. And I personally I think Dr. Howard Dean would be great. I personally gave him in 2003 a copy of Blaylock's book, inscribed to him personally, and I know he read it. I've discussed it with him, and it's a whole difference between a consumer protection FDA and a corporate serving FDA. As long as you have the kind of guys we have now, they're all following in the footsteps of Arthur Hull Hayes, who was given the job by Rumsfeld as a buddy deal, to approve aspartame in exchange for the job, and so Rummy could make $15 million.
Jeez. I mean, weren't some of the attorneys, for example, who maybe not specifically in this case, though I know, Betty, you mentioned one on a prosecutor, but weren't some of the attorneys who have worked for the FDA who were looking at pharmaceutical drugs, the drug companies trying to get them approved through the FDA, didn't they end up as attorneys for the corporations in some cases?
Oh, and the regulators themselves, the scientists end up, it's a revolving door, and it's pathetic. And this is one of the reasons that the American health has declined. And you know what? We're dragging down the rest of the world, too, because so many nations in Africa and Europe and South America, Central America, look to the FDA as this pristine example of the highest possible standards. What I call nonsense. It's just total BS.
What's it all about, Stephen? Is it all about money?
Yeah, and it may be, there may be genocidal attributes, that go beyond just money. There may be, I don't know. It's a very deep philosophical question, but of course, when corporations only want to please their bottom line, they hire lobbyists to come out and kill such things. Like they either have a whispering campaign, like they did in Hawaii, that they got to some of the very key people. We had bills that were scheduled that. Like the resolution was scheduled in the Senate Health Committee, and all of a sudden the Senate Health Committee chairman, who signed the resolution as a co-sponsor, mind you, all of a sudden said, I wonder whether this is internet junk science, and whether all your rationale that is listed in the Hawaii Senate resolution is just nonsense. And anyway, the listeners can read that, by the way. May I just say this, that it's on the Hawaii legislature website, as Senate Concurrent Resolution 191, and you could take out Hawaii and put in Missouri in that language and introduce it in the Missouri legislature, and I want to encourage people to do that. So I'm grateful for your program.
All right, go ahead, Betty.
Okay. Also, the same resolution has been given to an organization in South Africa, the Phoenix Environmental Institute, which we've sort of teamed up with, and they presented it to the South Africa Parliament, and now they have requested that